You know what's fascinating? While you're sitting there completely confused because she suddenly canceled the dinner plans you made, there's this entire neurological process happening that you genuinely did not see coming. And I'm not talking about someone trying to be difficult for attention. I mean, the partner who sees the decision you just made, the same way you might see, I don't know, a rough draft of an essay. Just a temporary placeholder. And here's what men miss. For many women, the decision just doesn't register as final the same way at all. So let's get into it. First thing you need to understand is that sticking to a choice isn't some default human setting. The brain doesn't pop out of the womb programmed to lock in a decision and never look back. What's actually happening when she changes her mind about that restaurant is this whole tangled mess of hemispheric connectivity, feeling like she needs to reevaluate risks even though you absolutely don't see any. And there's actually a biological basis for this, the corpus callosum. Basically, her brain has a thicker highway connecting the two hemispheres, meaning logic and emotion, are constantly talking to each other, even after you thought the conversation was over. For people with a more linear processing style, watching that happen is like, okay, wait, I thought we already decided on Italian food an hour ago. There's actually some interesting research here from neurobiology that found brains have wildly different processing speeds for emotional data. Some brains lock onto a target immediately, tunnel vision, while others keep scanning the environment for new information. Neither is superior. They're just different operating systems. So when she tells you she doesn't want to go out anymore, she might not be trying to be capricious or annoying. She might just be someone whose nervous system has finished processing the emotional data. The initial yes was based on logic, but the emotional reality of a noisy, crowded place genuinely might feel exhausting rather than exciting once that data arrives. And here's where it gets psychologically dense. Humans are adaptive by nature, right? We survived as a species because we noticed subtle changes and adjusted our behavior. Women often tap into that hyper-vigilant radar thing. I know that sounds dramatic, but the process of saying actually no follows a lot of the same patterns as ancient threat detection systems. But not everyone experiences that radar with equal intensity. Some people might make a plan and stick to it regardless of how they feel, ignoring the internal signals that scream, "I'm too tired," or "something feels off." They're not being firm. They've just prioritized the plan over the internal state, spaces that don't require them to constantly recalibrate based on intuition or subtle social cues. Now let's talk about something that might explain part of the disconnect: the context chameleon. There's this concept in psychology where decisions are highly dependent on the immediate context. Basically, do you tend to view a decision as a fixed point? Or are you comfortable updating your opinion as the context around you shifts? Think about what happens when she agrees to a party. She's feeling good. She's optimistic about the energy. But then the workday happens. Stress spikes. The context has changed. Some people are totally fine ignoring that change. The commitment is the point. Others might find that fundamentally dishonest to themselves. They'd rather spend emotional energy on things that match their current reality. Neither approach is wrong, they're just different psychological tendencies. Oh, and let's not forget the elephant in the room: intuition overload. Seriously, nobody ever talks about how the female brain is often processing micro-expressions, tone of voice, potential safety risks, social dynamics, and future consequences all at once. For a lot of men, the plan is just a logistical straight line from A to B. Like, can we just go? Especially for people who are wired a little differently, the ones psychologists call linear thinkers, which is often the male default setting. For them, changing plans is basically a cognitive assault that leaves them frustrated for hours. The inconsistency, the wavering, the indecision. What's flexibility for some is a full-on stress test for others. And here's another thing. Nobody really talks about how much people vary when it comes to the people-pleaser trap. There's research showing that women are often socialized to be agreeable and avoid conflict. Saying no is fundamentally risky. You never know how the other person will react, and that's supposed to be part of the social contract. But for people with high agreeableness, that initial yes might have been a fear response. They're not changing their mind, they're finally admitting the truth. The entire time. And when you combine that with the fact that the original yes wasn't actual